Ko te wakahuia he kai kawe kōrero, he kai hāpai mā tauranga, he kaitiakitanga. Mau ana ko te tapu o ngā taonga tuku iho, ko tā te wakahuia he hono i te hā o tua whakarere ki ngā pātaka mā tauranga o te wā. E putai he kōrero ki te whai ao, ki te ao mārama. A tēnā, kia whai tātou i te māramatanga I roto I ēnei taonga.
Tēnā koutou tamariki mā, nau mai ki tēnei hōtaka o Raranga Matihiko. Ko Sam Henare tōku ingoa, ko Jesse Roberson tēnei, and we both work at Te Papatonga Rewa here in Te Whanganui Atara.
And together with our friends at Waitangi Treaty Ground, Te Pito Whenua, Waikato Museum, Te Whare Taonga o Waikato, and MTG Hawke's Bay, Tai Ahuriri, we've got some awesome activities for you to do at your kāinga all around kaitiakitanga. So Sam, what does it mean to be a kaitiaki?
So to be a kaitiaki means that we have a responsibility to look after and to care for things which are precious. So our job as kaitiaki who work in a museum is to look after the taonga which are kept here. Another part of our job as kaitiaki who work in a museum is to help to support you to look after taonga as well. So Jesse, what are taonga?
Well, taonga are things that are special, precious and important to us. Things like our stories and our words, special places, unique environments, even the people around us. These are all things that we want to care for and look after. So I'm excited. What are we going to be doing?
Well, in this series, we're going to be using digital tools to explore the relationship which we have with taonga for the present and into the future. Nō reira, hea ha te taki mo te rānei.
Well, today's kaupapa is Te Aki Whenua. And to explore this, we're going to be heading downstairs here at Te Papa to Scott, who's going to be showing us our unique environment and what we can learn from it. Then we're going to head back to the lab where Alicia's going to be using Scratch to code some messages about caring for our environment. Sound good?
Ka pai.
Awesome. Let's head down to Scott.
Thanks Jesse and Sam. The Whenua, or land of New Zealand, has been isolated and cut off for more than 50 million years. So the life that has evolved here is often found nowhere else in the world. Things like kiwi, kia, kakapo, whio, weta, tuatara, these things are endemic to New Zealand, which means they're only found here. But it's not just our animals. Many of our plants are also found nowhere else in the world. Tōtara, kauri, pohutakawa, rata, kōwhai, all of these plants are found here in New Zealand and nowhere else in the world. But there's one plant that we have that's more famous here in Aotearoa and around the world than any of our other plants. Can you think what plant I'm talking about? That's right, it's the silver fern. Many of our national sports teams wear it proudly on their uniforms. New Zealand businesses and corporations and organisations use it in their logos. The New Zealand Army, the police have the silver fern in their logo. It's clearly an important symbol of identity in New Zealand. The silver fern, or ponga, is a tree fern, and New Zealand is home to quite a few species of endemic tree ferns. The ponga can grow to 10 metres tall and has a thick crown of fronds that are about it can get up to 4 metres long. But the feature that really makes the silver fern stand out is the colour on the underside of its leaves. It's got this really bright white, almost silver colour on the underside of its fronds. Tree ferns are different to other plants in that they don't have seeds, they don't have flowers, and they don't need to be pollinated. But what they do is spores. You can see a spore on the bottom of a fern frond. It's a little brown dot, which is not actually the spore, it's the spore capsule. On a silver fern, each one of those brown dots holds 64 spores, which each one can grow a new silver fern. In its lifetime, one silver fern, or ponga, can produce billions and billions of spores. But these spores are so tiny that we don't even notice them. To give you an idea of how big a spore can be, imagine a centimetre, divide that by 10, so you've now got a millimetre, divide that by 10 again, and then halve that tiny size, and that's how big one spore is. So even though there could be millions of them in the air right now, you'd never know. The silver colour of the bottom of the fern leaf, it can be used to mark tracks when tramping in the bush. Trampers will often leave the silver fern fronds on the ground, silver side up, so they can mark the track and they can follow the same track they've come to get home again. It's particularly helpful in dark or in night conditions where you might not be able to see the track so clearly. So in a way, the silver fern can be a kaitiaki for us, help us not get lost in the forest. To help me figure out which tree fern I'm looking at, I've made this really handy little identification flowchart, which helps me think a bit like a computer. So the way we use our identification chart, and to help us think like a computer, is to ask a question that has a yes or a no answer. So with our chart, the first question we ask is, do I have fronds with hairs on them? So tree ferns come in two types. There's hairy tree ferns and scaly tree ferns. And to answer that first question, do I have hairs, yes or no, we'll tell you which way to go down the flowchart. And then there'll be another question that asks you to look at another feature of the fern, and you slowly break your way down until you know which fern you're looking at. So to see whether the fern has hairs or scales, you need to look at where the fronds or the leaves attach to the trunk of the tree fern. And they have really what look like hairs there, but if you look really closely, some of them will look flatter, and we call these scales. Ones that actually look like hair. If you patted a dog or a cat, you've got a handful of hair, that's a hairy fern. You'll know the difference straight away. So for comparison, I've got some scales from one type of tree fern here, and you can see they're much flatter, kind of almost like little strips of paper. On my other hand, I've got ones from a hairy tree fern, and immediately they feel more like hair, and they look a lot more like hair from a cat or a dog, not so much hair from your own head. So I've just shown you how I can think like a computer to figure out which type of tree fern I'm looking at in the forest. We're going to go back up to Jesse and Sam now, and they're going to teach you a few more ways to think like a computer. Ka kite anō.
Wow, wasn't that interesting to learn about the many different types of ferns? Like this one here, which has silver underneath it, and this one here, which has lots of different spores underneath it.
And I guess if you're a scientist and you're trying to identify what these are, you're going to be thinking things like, well, if this has silver underneath it, it's this. Or else it's this type. If it's hairy, it's this. Or else it's this type.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way to think about it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to head over to Alicia in the Learning Lab, who's going to use a digital tool called Scratch to show us a type of coding called if, then, or else. Let's go.
Kia ora, Sam.
Kia ora, Alicia. Kei te pihi a koe.
Kei te pai ho. So I've been thinking about the stuff that Scott was telling us about identifying different tree ferns and using the language of computers. And I thought that we could use that language of computers to kind of create our own projects.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And I thought I could teach you guys about this really cool coding block called if then and if then else.
Yep.
So I thought we could start with a game to begin with,
Okay.
which teaches you how that works so it becomes easier when we jump onto Scratch.
Okay, cool.
We'll start with if then to begin with.
Yep.
So if I click my fingers, then you touch your nose.
Okay.
Awesome. Let's try something else. If I touch my head, you click your fingers. Okay? Awesome. Okay. Now let's try and add the else part onto it.
Okay.
If I clap my hands, then you cover your face, or else touch your shoulders.
Okay.
Nice. Awesome.
Okay,
Good
cool.
job. Okay, so that's how our if then and if then else works, and it'll make sense as we go through Scratch as well.
Cool.
Cool. So I'm going to use Scratch now, which is an online block-based coding program where we can create a lot of cool projects, things such as quizzes, animations, games, little stories,
Cool.
basically anything you want.
Okay, great.
So we at Papa here have created a bunch of projects for you that you can go ahead and remix. Now remix means that you basically take a copy, put it into your own Scratch studio, and you've got it there to have a go with.
Okay, that's awesome. So whereabouts do we find those?
Of course, so you can either go along to our website and you'll find the link there, or you can go and type in the link below into the web address bar and go straight to the project.
Oh, nice and easy.
Cool. That's exactly what I'm going to do now. So this is what the remix page will look like when you type it in. All I want to do is press remix. And it pretty much does everything for me. The only thing to bear in mind is that you do need to have a Scratch login. You do need to be logged in order to remix. And that's really useful as well because you can save your awesome mahi.
Cool.
Cool. But before we go any further, I want to show you something really cool that I've prepared for you earlier.
Oh, here we go.
So this is a little thing that I've been working on, and I'm just going to press the green flag to make it go, and then I'd like you to type in for me and have a go. Sound good?
Okay.
Awesome.
Can you help us by showing kaitiakitanga? I think so.
Cool, so type in yes.
Oh, right, sorry. Yes. Awesome. Thank you for being a kaitiaki. No worries. Oh, can you drag your rubbish into the bin? So just click on this one.
Click on it and drag it
into the top.
into the bin.
Boop.
And it's
Look
gone.
at that. What a great kaitiaki I am.
Absolutely. So I'm going to press stop and
Cool.
just make that back to down.
That was actually really good.
Yeah. So there are two main characters or sprites that I have coded using the if then else block.
Yeah.
This one here just has if then like we did before in our game.
Yeah.
And this one here has the if then else. So we've used both of those blocks that we were talking about earlier.
Cool.
Cool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take everything away, throw it into the rubbish bin, and we're going to start from scratch.
Oh my goodness. From
Okay.
scratch.
From scratch.
Punster. Punster McPunster.
And then I'll take you through it and
Okay.
explain how everything works.
Okay, great.
Okay, so we'll start with the rubbish bin. Now I'm going to take all of this away.
Oh my goodness.
Now it's really important that we leave our when start flag is clicked. If you get rid of it by mistake, that's totally fine. All you have to do is go into events and drag it back out again. Now what I want to do first is I want to drag out one of these sensing blocks. Now I should probably tell you about the colours along the side and what they mean.
Okay.
So each of these little categories has a colour associated with it, and it just means it's a lot easier trying to find it rather than remembering what all of the different functions are.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to pull out this one, this ask what's your name and weight.
Sam.
Now I don't
What's my
want to
name
know.
and my weight? Personal.
Now I don't want to know your name this time.
Okay. Oh.
Okay, I want to put into my game something to do with being a kaitiaki. So I might type, can you help by showing kaitiakitanga?
Oh yeah, cool.
Cool. Awesome. Now from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to control, and I'm going to pull out our if then else block and connect them together.
Cool.
Again, we need to make sure they're connected together in order for the program to run.
Yeah.
It's just signaling to the computer when everything is going to start.
Yeah.
All right, so now you will see that there are a bunch of different gaps here that we need to fill. So I want to fill this hexagon shape first. I'm going to go to operators and drag out this block here. Okay. If something equals something then.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm also going to go to the blue sensing and drag out the answer block and slot that into there.
Okay.
So what I'm going to type now is if the answer is yes, then something is going to happen, or else if the answer is not yes, then something else is going to happen.
Okay, cool.
Okay, just like when we were playing our game. So I'm going to pull out a looks block. Now it might be a little bit strange to think that the looks are going to change when we're saying something,
Yeah.
but we're actually seeing the looks change because we're watching the change happen on screen. We're not
yeah.
hearing it.
Yeah, because it's written down and we, yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool. Gotcha.
So I'm going to put this one in here, and I'm going to change this. Awesome. Thank you for being a kaitiaki. Cool?
Cool.
Awesome. I'm going to pull out another say block to give further instructions into my interactive animation.
Okay.
So I just drag that below, and I'm going to say, can you drag your rubbish into the bin?
Oh, yeah, yeah, I remember where we are. Cool.
Cool. Now, I need to think of an else response. So if they don't say yes and they say something else, what are we going to say back to them?
I can. Sad guy.
Okay, so we'll get it to think, sad guy.
Cool.
Cool. Awesome.
Great.
All right, so what I need to think about now is I need to think about the amount of seconds that I want that message to play for.
Yeah.
To me at the moment, 2 seconds for those long sentences is probably not enough time.
Cool.
So all I do is I click on the white box, I press 6 and another 6
Oh, yep, give us
and we're
time
good
to
to
read
go.
it.
Absolutely.
All right, so I just have one quick question for you. Sorry to interrupt. So on the top, you've got say awesome or say can you drag your rubbish, but the bottom one is the think one. I just want to know what the difference is between the say and the think.
That's a really good point. So I'll go back even further and we'll talk about that ask block as well. The ask block is different because it provides a space where the person playing the game or playing the animation can actually type in their answer.
Yeah.
Now the say block says it as if it were a speech bubble,
Yeah.
and the think puts it like a thought bubble.
Oh, so like the little cloud. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Nice and easy. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, now that we've coded that fern and we've coded a little bit of dialogue, should we have a go and test it out?
Okay, sounds good.
Awesome. I'm just going to make sure that our milk comes back, and we're going to make it full screen and give it a go. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome.
Can you help by showing kaitiakitanga?
Can you?
Not today. Oh,
So it's come up
sad
with
guy.
our else option.
Cool.
Should we give it another go?
Yes, I think that would be good.
Awesome. We'll stop and we'll play again. Although
I appreciate that the fern thought sad guy and didn't say it as well. I thought that was quite a nice touch.
Good. Alrighty. You ready?
I'm ready.
Give it another whirl.
Can you help by showing kaitiakitanga? I believe I can today. Yes. Awesome. Thank you for being a kaitiaki. No worries. Can you drag your rubbish into the bin? I believe I can, but maybe we have to wait for the next bit of coding before we get to that.
Yes.
Okay.
Sounds good.
One other question I had
Yeah.
is there are some beautiful sounds of the ngāhere going in the background. Is that something that you just get from importing the remix that will all come with it?
Yep, so everything in this package will come with it. The sounds have been recorded and they're under the sound coding block.
Oh, yeah. So people in their own time can have a play with sounds.
Absolutely, yeah,
Okay, cool.
definitely. Cool. All right, so that is the fern all coded, and we're going to move on to the milk now,
Great. Excellent.
because the milk and the tree need to be able to work together in order for this program to run.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to click on control, and then I need to make sure that I have a forever block.
Okay.
Now, this particular piece of code will not work without the forever block. If I attached all of the code and clicked it into the start block, then it's only going to do it that one time. And if it's not doing it that one time immediately when I press the start flag, it's not going to do it again.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I need to make sure that it's just constantly running that program so that as soon as that action happens,
Yeah.
it does what I want it to.
So you can pick up the rubbish at any stage and put it into the bin, and it will.
Yeah,
Just, yeah.
rather
okay.
than just at the start.
Cool,
Cool,
great.
and I'll show you guys, hopefully to make a little bit more sense. So I'm going to get our if then block. Now you'll notice that I haven't got the else part
Yes, I do
because
notice.
I only want an A and a B.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to go down to sensing, and we're just going to use a sensing. So last time we used the operators and the answer block in sensing. This time we're just going to use sensing.
Yeah. Cool.
So I'm going to drag out this one, which is touching. So this tells me, and I can click this down, that if it's touching the mouse pointer, then it's going to do something.
Cool.
However, I want it to touch the bin. So I'm going to click on the bin.
Yeah.
And when it's touching the bin, I would actually like it to hide. So I'm going to go to looks and search for my hide block and drag that in.
Okay. Cool.
Cool. Now there's one thing that I did forget, because at the moment we want it to be touching the bin,
Yes.
but we have no way to get it to the bin.
No.
So there's one block that I can use that's really helpful, which is called set drag mode. So if I pull this apart, set that as drag mode, so it's able to be dragged,
Okay.
put that together, now that should work.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
So that means now when you press the green flag, you are able to drag it. Otherwise, it
Absolutely.
would. Okay. Cool.
Yep. Cool.
Follow
Are
me.
we ready to see if it works?
Yes. Cool.
Awesome. All right, now we need to look out and make sure that there's no mistakes. If there are, we're going to have to go back and debug it.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay. Alrighty. Let's make that nice and big.
Oh. Can you help us by showing kaitiakitanga? Yes. Awesome. Thank you for being a kaitiaki. Great. Can you drag your rubbish into the... I certainly can. So click on this,
Yep.
pop.
Into the
Look
image.
at that, and it
Pretty
disappears.
Cool. Absolutely, yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's really good.
So it's a nice way to make more of an interactive story.
Yeah, that's really good.
Now, the one thing that we have to be mindful of when we're creating a Scratch project where things hide and they disappear and they go off screen is we want to be able to reset everything really fast.
Oh, yeah.
If I have to go in and click the show and hide button the whole time, that's probably not the best way to do it. There's actually a more efficient way to reset.
Cool.
So it's a little bit of a trick. We go into events, we drag out this one, which is when a particular key is pressed.
Yeah.
Now for me, when I think of reset, I think of the letter R.
Yeah, I understand how you
Yep.
how you got to that. Yeah.
So I'm going to make it when the R key is pressed, something is going to happen.
Cool.
Cool. So for me, I need to make sure that the milk comes back.
Yes.
We need to show the milk. So go back to looks,
Yeah.
and instead of hiding it this time, it's going to show it.
Cool.
Now when I share my Scratch project, there is also space to write your instructions normally.
Yeah.
So in my project page, I would be able to write, please press R for reset, and then my audience and the people that I'm creating this game for would know what to do.
Yeah.
So now that we've thought about how it's going to show up and bring it back when we restart, I now need to think about the position and where it's going to appear.
Because we want it back at the beginning to reset.
Exactly. At the moment, if I show it, it just goes back to on top of the bin,
Yeah. Okay.
which is not the most ideal for us.
No.
So instead, what I can use is this motion. And I can drag in where exactly I would like it to go.
Cool.
So I can get it to go to a particular spot. Now what I'd like you to do is to think of your Scratch project
Yes.
as having a big plus sign through the middle.
Okay.
Okay, this point here is at 0.
Okay.
Okay, anything that's going to move to the left is going to be in negatives.
Okay.
Anything to the right is in positives.
That's positives. Yeah.
Yep. Anything up is going to be positives.
Yep.
Anything down is going to be negatives.
Okay. Got you.
Okay, just like the graphs we see sometimes in maths.
Oh, so like the XY graphs. That we see.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So I'm going to set my sprite to where I want it to be. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit here.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Now that I've pulled out the block, I'm actually going to get rid of it. In fact, I'll leave it there so you can see the difference. So I'm going to show the milk, and then I'm going to drag it to where I would like it to be at the start of my project.
Yeah.
Then here, you can see that it's changed the coordinates ready to go for me. Do you see? So this is where it was before, and this is where it is now.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Cool.
So I'm going to connect that one in, and then it's going to show, and I'm just going to get rid of that
That's a
one.
very handy little tip.
Cool.
Yep. Cool.
Should we have a go with it and see if we can restart it easily?
Yeah. Great.
Awesome. Let's full screen it again and press start.
Oh, can you help us by showing kaitiakitanga? Yes, I can. Awesome. Thank you for being a kaitiaki. No worries. Can you drag your rubbish into the bin? Yes, I can. Ooh. Cool.
Awesome.
And so then,
So when I press stop and I press R, it brings it back.
excellent. And so then to go through the program again, all I have to do is press the green flag and we go again.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yep.
Cool.
And it will play over and over and over again.
Excellent. Oh, that's great.
Cool. So now that I have created a little bit of an interactive game for you and shown you guys how you can do it, there's no limit to what you guys can create.
Yeah, that's really good. And I really enjoyed how you used the program to show kaitiakitanga for the whenua. I mean, to start with, it looked very complex and I was absolutely terrible at the game, but I think I can go away and give that a go. Well, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to shoot back to Jessie and let her know all about this because she'll love this program. So I'll go and let her know. And thank you again, and we'll see you next time.
Ka kite.
Okay, kia ora. Kia ora, Jessie. Did you see how Alicia used different types of coding blocks to share ideas about how we can be kaitiaki over the whenua?
Yeah, and it's cool to see how we can use that if then else language in lots of other situations, like figuring out how to best care for our environment.
Yeah, that is really interesting. Another really good thing about Scratch is that it's actually really easy to use. In fact, I might give it a go when I get home.
Yeah, and you guys at home should too. And if you create something really cool, upload it to social media and tag us using this hashtag.
So that's us for now. Ka kite anō.
We'll see you again.